Hi, so our project is regarding extending the JavaScript object, array, string, and number prototype chain. So a lot of the things in JavaScript have a lot of utility libraries about what's kind of missing. So being able to type check a value or being able to search for something logically, say an array of objects, that's not present in the current language. So what we did is just extend the chain out and add some common utility functions that help bring a little more life and a lot more C sharpness in Java and a lot more robustness to the language on the basic types that are the object array, string, and numbers. So what features in this package is that it's relatively small. It's 30 kilobytes. That takes maybe 200 milliseconds from a website running on 3G, that is. So if you're on a Wi-Fi connection, it's probably not even noticeable. We also developed a test for it. We have something like 63 unit tests. It's easy to install. You just install it via npm down here. We have JSDoc documentation so that any IDE or code editor that you use, it's automatically got a little tooltip thing that can tell you what the parameters take for values and their types and what they do and what the function does as well. Here we also use ES5 and Babel, so anything from probably IE 10 or so and up works, and it also works in Node.js and from probably the 0.x series as well, since it should be transpiled into ES5. And we also checked to make sure that there wasn't any overwritten methods before adding our object.define property, which is the nice way to add a prototype method onto the object chain in JavaScript. So as I mentioned before, to just install it, you just go npm install perfected prototypes or yarn. Here we're on the npm registry, and this is our package, perfected prototypes. And to use it, you either just go require perfected prototypes. You don't need to assign it to a value or anything. And this would be on the Node.js side. And if you were to use ES6 or 7 in one of the newer frameworks like React or Angular 5, you just go import perfected prototypes and you're good to go. This would have to be in like your main index file so that it's first initialized there and then it spreads down to all your other files. So going over some of our object methods, we have object.try, which a big problem in JavaScript is that if you have a deeply nested value in an object and you try accessing it down, and at any point you hit undefined, you will completely crash the program. If you're on React or in Node.js, also crash the program. So it's very fragile, and this function helps return a undefined value and not crash, just return undefined. It handles it gracefully, and it just gives you back the value if it is actually there, but if not undefined, doesn't crash, which is great. There's also a for each, so kind of a loop. You just get the key value pairs, bunch of different use cases for this. Being able to map over an object and create a new one with the key value pair. A reduce function so that you can actually summate or create an array of values from the values in your object. And you can check if values or an object is empty, so there is no more if object.keys.length equals 0. That's essentially what this function does. You can merge objects together and preserve or overwrite key value pairs. Stuff like sending it to array. Deep copy is a really big one that's pretty useful. A bunch of times I've had to do this json.parse.stringify, and it just really uglies up the code. I think having just a foo.deep copy and being able to change something is really useful. And along with this deep equal, so trying to check object equality in JavaScript is also very tedious. So this is a nice little shortcut for people. We also have checking for an object as well. Now we're moving on to array methods. So we have array first and last, get the respective values. This array access is kind of like Python indexing, so you can go -1 and it'll get the last value, and it can go backwards as well. Being able to remove. specific things from your array based on the value that you do pass in. So this could be an array of objects, array of strings, array of numbers as it is, and it just removes all instances of that value. You can clear the array now instead of just having to overwrite the value with an empty arrays itself. You can just clear it. Get unique values, check if your array is empty. So if you're trying to check if the array is empty, you'd have to go if array dot length equals 0. It's kind of tedious. This r dot empty I think is a lot more concise and neat. We have some find object methods, so a lot of arrays in JavaScript contain a lot of objects in themselves, so this will be able to filter through them all. These are just different renditions. This is powered by Lodash, but you can pass in functions, you can pass in objects, you can pass in key value pairs in an array, or just a truthy value. We can find the difference between two arrays as well, shuffling. Array deep equals another good one that's also very tedious. And now we have also string methods, so these just help transform strings, which might be useful. So being able to camel case something, being able to numberize something I thought was really clever, because a lot of the times you get numbers like this, which is just a million with no commas. If you call numberize on it, it inserts the commas at the proper location. Being able to escape something in HTML, so if you're trying to print out a value and you have a little ampersand here, it might not render right in the browser. So if you just call string.html escape in React or Angular or something like that, it will automatically escape it for you. Start case, so someone's name, that's a big one. Or if this was all capitals instead of all lowercase, it would also correct it to Brandon Dring with the correct capitalization. So a lot of the stuff in the database is in all caps or all lowercase. It'll take care of that. You can search for values in a string, and it will return true. You can check if it is a string. So moving on to number methods, now we have number.round. So if we assign a value to a variable, we can call round, and it'll round to the integer if no value is passed in. And if there is a value passed in, it rounds to the right of the decimal place. Also random number generation, and checking to see if the variable is actually a number. So one of the things that made me want to do this was that I went to OzCon and CDK had a booth there, but CDK doesn't really have any open source project besides Fortellus. If CDK wants to put their own branding on this and put it in their own repository or put their own spin on it, whatever, it's fine. The code is hosted on GitHub. It's free under the MIT license, and people can add issues and pull requests to there and do with what they see fit. So it's all very tested, has prettiers on it so that all the code is standardized, linters on it so there's no redundant things or things against bad practice. And transpiler, as I already said, continuous integration, everything's ready to go. It's ready to be built up more by the community and taken to the next level. All right, this has been it. Thanks.